Hello, hello, and welcome back to DFT'S Dungeon. My name is Daniel Terry, and I don't normally do this kind of thing, but a question that I get asked all the time is, Dan, you always talk about nostalgic albums on your podcast. Don't you listen to, any new music? And frankly, the answer is no. Well, in all fairness, I do try to keep up with new releases from artists that I like, and occasionally I will reach my arm out there and try to check out something new. And so I wanted to share 5 albums with you that really meant a lot to me in 2023. And if it makes you feel any better, Zayo did not put a record out this year, so this will probably be one of the only lists that I ever make that doesn't have a Zayo album in it. And just as a disclaimer, these albums are not in any particular order because I don't really believe in ranking albums. I think they're all different and unique in their own way, so don't think that the last album that I talk about on this list is my favorite out of the 5. So let's get into it. Number 1, Slow Suicide by Cultist. So this is probably one of my most recent purchases this year. Cultist is a self-proclaimed Christian beatdown band from Southern California. And the band didn't really show up on my radar until later this year when their label, Face Down Records, was selling their CDs for ultra cheap. It was kind of like a Black Friday thing. And so you could buy new releases from Face Down for $5. So I'm pretty much willing to check out any band, when I get a hard copy for $5. So I went for it, and I'm really, really glad that I did. Cultist plays a dark combination of hardcore and metalcore with some of the most pissed off and aggressive vocals I've heard in a very long time. My favorite song on this album is the opener, Slow Suicide, which puts everything that the band is capable of on full display right from the get-go. The whole slow part in the title is not just a clever name. This is a slower paced record. It's very heavy, very brutal, very intentional. And it's primarily focused on beating the listener into submission for 26 minutes straight. No clean vocals, no experimentation. This is just down to business hardcore. And I absolutely adore it. Number 4, Break, Burn, End by Violent Life, Violent Death. Violent Life, Violent Death is one of my favorite bands from the last 5 years or so. Bands like Violent Life, Violent Death, and Circleback have been recapturing that same energy that first attracted me to hardcore and metalcore when I was just a high schooler. The songs on Break, Burn, End remind me of all of the best parts of Zayo and Society's Finest in a brutal, more modernly recorded package. Benjamin, their singer, has an absolutely menacing, growling snarl, and when you combine that with bone-crushing riffs and anxiety-inducing dissonance, you have the pure embodiment of a great metallic hardcore record. Clocking in at just 24 minutes and 27 seconds, the band fills every second with pure venom, and you will definitely want to listen to this one over and over again. My personal favorite song on the album is the closer, Come Armageddon, which is just this loaded ball of energy that would make it impossible for you to win a no headbanging challenge. Number 3, Mother by Veil of Maya. Man, me and Veil of Maya go back a pretty long way. I mean, not like me and Veil of Maya personally. I'm sure they've never even heard of a Daniel Terry. But I've been listening to this band with hungry ears and starry eyes since I heard the band's second album, The Common Man's Collapse, back in 2008. And like any band that I've stuck with for so many years, they've gone through multiple eras of different sounds. They've experimented a lot. And they've always succeeded in whatever experiment that they've conducted, and Mother is absolutely no exception to this. On Mother, the band delivers an amazing combination of flashy and technical guitar work, as well as tons of electronic ear candy, and a dopamine-delivering cocktail of guttural screams and soaring clean choruses. And I'll be totally honest with you guys, I'm a little bit of a purist when it comes to metal. I prefer a band to either be super poppy or super brutal. Kind of like for them to just pick one. But everything on this record comes together in such an absolutely masterful way. It's impossible not to just get lost in the textured and emotionally rich soundscapes. I've been listening to this album nearly every day since May, and it still continues to blow my mind every time. Number 2, Simulations of Hell by Serration. If that Veil of Maya album was just like a little too produced and sheened up for you, then Serration is about as close to the polar opposite of that as you can get. And that's what I love about music in the modern day. My heart is very much open to both approaches. Simulations of Hell by Serration is a metallic hardcore album that absolutely has no problem gutting the listener to the bone. Brutal riffs, roomy drums, dissonant passages, and even some electronics and clean vocals. But I promise that the clean vocals were only in the second song. They had like a guest singer. It was a whole thing. But my favorite part about Serration is by far their vocals. And they're kind of hard to describe, but like it's almost as if you took Zayo and you locked the whole band in like an underground bunker for like 5 years and just like tortured them the whole time. That's how you'd get something similar to Serration. The vocal approach is absolutely putrid and unhinged, and it's absolutely my cup of tea. For only being 13 minutes long, this album actually covers a pretty surprising amount of ground, and it includes elements that I've never heard out of this band before. The riffs are dissonant, but they have the slightest tinge of melody in them. And there's even some acoustic and piano instrumentals that are thrown in there for good measure, and the emotional impact that it creates is huge, and it lasts a long time, despite how brief the experience actually is. So don't sleep on Serration. If you've never heard of them before, they are one of the coolest bands out there right now. And before I get into the final album, I want to throw out one honorable mention, and it's not even an album. It's just a single by the band Narcissist, which if they had, actually put out a full EP to go with it this year, then it absolutely would have made this list. And the song is called Vacant Blood, and this is a version of Narcissist that we have absolutely never heard before. Vacant Blood is a full-on rager from start to finish, with some of the most intense screams that I have ever heard from this band. The pace never lets up, and the song leaves you wanting much, much more when it's over. When I interviewed Joshua King last year and he told me that they were working on new stuff, I never would have imagined that it was going to sound like this. This song blew me away, and I cannot wait to include any upcoming releases that they might have in a list next year. And finally, number 1, More Power, More Pain by Gideon. Every single morning, the alarm on my phone goes off at a sobering 5:30 a.m. It just doesn't care that I was up until 1:30 in the morning putting the finishing touches on a podcast. And even though I'm pretty used to that by now, I always need just a little bit of something extra to get me going in the morning. And most people, they just drink coffee to wake up. But I don't have that luxury because I have to get to work, because actually waking up at 5:30 is even kind of pushing it as far as giving myself time to get there. So instead of drinking coffee, I listen to Gideon. And despite the band getting a lot of flack from Christian hardcore fans these days, I gotta say, I'm absolutely in love with the modern Gideon material. Starting out as a more melodic hardcore band back when they were on Facedown Records, Gideon has musically morphed into one of the angriest and energetic hardcore bands on the planet. More Power, More Pain, in my opinion, blows away anything that the band did before. Every riff, breakdown, and scream is absolutely soaked in gasoline and vinegar. This record gives absolutely no quarter and gives me more of a boost than any energy drink that I can get from a gas station. And I'm especially fond of all of the old-timey audio clips that are inserted in between the songs. And you wouldn't think that they would set the mood as well as they do, but at this point, I couldn't imagine this album without them. My favorite song is called Push It Back, which is a song that discourages passiveness in every situation. And really, this is a whole record that pushes back against being taken advantage of. And it encourages us to push back against adversity, to give yourself some space and stand on your own. Every song makes its point bluntly and sometimes ignorantly, but trust me when I say that all of these themes were essential life lessons that I had to learn if I was going to survive throughout the year of 2023. It is absolute perfection through and through. And that is my list of my favorite albums from 2023. Please make sure to share your favorite albums down below in the comments. And if you guys want to hear more DFT's Dungeon, make sure to check out some of my other videos, or you can visit gabbermedia.com to hear over 50 audio-only episodes of this podcast. I love you all, and I will see you in 2024.